Welcome to the Never Been Promoted podcast and YouTube channel. I'm on a mission to help you cut the time to all the things that are holding you back so you can unleash your entrepreneur. Welcome to Never Been Promoted. Hi, I'm Thomas Helfrich, your host. We're here today on a mission. We're going live as we always do, but this mission is simple: help entrepreneurs get better at entrepreneurship. And specifically, I think the world needs more entrepreneurs. Even more specifically, because it's important to niche down, right? I care about the world, but I really care about the United States first. And I got to tell you, we need more of them. It is a competitive advantage for us to have as many people as possible creating jobs for others who don't want to do the entrepreneurial path. But if you've got that and it's inside of you, this is why we exist, because I want to help you improve that journey and cut the tie, so to speak, to all the things that are kind of holding you back. And there's a lot that will hold you back: people, senses of entitlement, fears, excuses that are valid. You make. Stop doing that. It's an excuse. And that's what holds you back. So if you can learn something today from our guests, our guests today and something from their journey or what they're doing for the world, you've taken a step towards getting better at entrepreneurship or launching. I have a very few things I ask people to do, if one of them being, if you can, give the YouTube channel a subscribe. It really helps our mission to be able to, further like what we're trying to do, get the guest message out, how they're helping the world. So if you can take a moment, youtube.com/at Never Been Promoted. If you're listening to the podcast, do the 5-star review. It's so important for the guests and the mission to get it out there. And it really helps our show kind of get more exposure, because we are here to build a community. We've done over 1 million subscribers on YouTube, and we're only growing and doing it more. But enough shameless promotion. Let's bring in our guest, Paul Young. Paul, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastically. Thank you for having me here.
You're welcome. I mean, you're welcome for coming here. I would not. The fact that you said yes is I'm actually happier.
I appreciate the Freudian slip that you called me Paul Young.
It is. It was an intentional one, because we're talking about Olderhood today. So my humor, I'm glad you picked up on that, because you've lived a long. His name's Paul Young, guys. Long. I said young because we're doing Olderhood as the topic. Now, olderhood, so there's childhood, there's adulthood, and then there's olderhood, which a lot of people have dismissed. We're just going to ride out the sun. And your premise is this is your best life. You're going to be living to 80s, 90s. Let's do this. So we're going to get into that. You're the founder of New Way Forward. I want to hear about that in a minute. We're going to do an icebreaker first.
Okay.
I asked this question a lot, because I think it's just a fun question to ask, and I want to hear what your answer would be. You've been arrested. And no one knows why you've been arrested. What do your friends and family assume you did?
Well, now that's an interesting question. I broke the rules.
Oh, you're going to have to be more specific than that.
Uh-huh.
Clearly you broke the rules. You've been arrested. But what rule did you break?
Boy, that... You
don't drink.
Stuck.
So that's
on that. I just can't imagine me getting arrested. What would it have been? I think that Well, it would have had to have been a false accusation in the first place. And it was something that was misunderstood because I was actually trying to help. I don't know, man. You've really got me stuck there. It wouldn't be larceny. It wouldn't be murder. It wouldn't be assault.
Well, let's get those off the table. No, I think it would be impatience, and I'll explain. You're buying something that's about $20. With tax, it's going to come out to 22. You only have $40 cash, but there's a line a mile and a half. You walk by the whole thing and you rip off the UPC and you throw $40 down on the counter. And it's like, I'm out of here. So you've overpaid, but you've not properly gone through the channels. And someone goes, he stole it.
You got it. I mean, it would definitely be something that was practical and even morally sound, but it did not ascribe to what society tells us we have to do. Because I
don't do lines.
I am totally irrelevant.
I can tell. I've met with you enough times to know that you are not a line guy like me. Like, I'd rather just not go do the activity. Like, I just not.
Here's my money.
But I will say,
I have things to do.
When I've traveled, I've been to India a few times. The concept of a line it's more of a funnel, and it's jockeying and positioning. But because there is no concept of line, there's no concept of a rule. So I just play on that where, well, I'm just going to go to the front of it and dare someone to say something. But knowing that culture is just a little more passive, they're just gonna be pissed about it. But I've been yelled at before. So I love that where I'm like, and just walk right in. So anyway, and you're not going to create a rule.
What you're pretending to, and the topic of this show, and I've written about it and done a video about it, is that any successful entrepreneur, any great innovator, any person that's instituted change said, F the rules. They broke the rules. If you follow the rules and you're trying to do something special, you're going to fail. Everybody.
Now, rules versus laws, guys. Don't break the laws. I wouldn't even bet on them.
But the rules of, you're supposed to live. And by the way, a lot of what I'm doing is, society, parents, marketers tell us how we're supposed to live, how we're supposed to be, what's good in life, and all of that other kind of stuff. And we never really stop to consider, well, now, wait a minute, is that right for me? And then same thing with, some of the entrepreneurs that I've got books about up here and great leaders and stuff like that. They always broke the rules, but in a constructive and successful way.
Now, I want you to do understand, like, because we'll dive into it, but I don't want to be like, who is this guy? So you want to do the small introduction for yours? It's like, give me the new way forward one-liner and who you are, and back up far enough where you want to say, hey, this is how I got here.
New way forward is basically two things. It's bringing awareness to the fact that there's an entirely new phase of life that exists out there right now. And that's olderhood. That's the phrase that I've coined for it. So the old attitude was, in our youth, we learn, and then we're adults, and then we retire and we decline and we die. And we become irrelevant if we live long enough to even become irrelevant. But now, in this modern society, there's a new gift of life that is this new phase of life that we can live healthy, active, relevant, even profitable until our 90s. With our kids, it's going to be over 100. It's said that the first person to live to 150 is alive today. The world has changed. And so what are you going to do with all of that time? And so it's bringing awareness to people of this new opportunity. But then the key thing is how do I figure out what's right for me holistically in my entire life? How do I not just do the same old? How do I actually transform myself to something that's relevant, meaningful, fun, and enjoyable for the rest of my life? And so that's the word I'm spreading and what I'm helping people with.
Now, I like your outfit. It's missing a blue tie that's cut, just to be clear. The white shirt is the way to go.
I don't think I got 100 ties. I don't think I got a blue one like yours. So
you're going to get one now that you've been on the show. As soon as we launch the next phase of Cut the Tie, which is an entrepreneurial, like, kind of a private deal, you get one, and that'd be your ceremony to get into the group, is they actually cut the tie.
I love it.
On social media
part of the tribe.
Yeah, for the purpose of growth hacking, you'll have to post it on social media too. So anyway, you've been on the camera thousands of times, as you know. You don't wear bright white. You got to have a little off white. So just, guys, wash your white shirt one time with a gray thing, and it just softens it enough to make it okay for the camera.
Yeah.
Anyway, true statement. A friend of mine in Hollywood told me that. Tricks. how to wear a white shirt. Or put a little yellow light, which is what I do. So let's get into something. New way forward. I had never, so as somebody who's 48, I'm in the middle of like adulthood, starting to peer over the mountain of, oh God, do I want to do this for the next 20 years, 10 years? And then what? In my mind, and this is probably just something I didn't accept till I've met more entrepreneurs that are like 10 years my senior or 20 years my senior. Every one of them, and I mean without exception, has said, I retired, that are in that space. They said, I retired and I started to feel like I was dying after the first year. And they felt mainly like my brain, like I felt like, lethargic. They said they did stuff like exercise still didn't help. They did testosterone replacement therapy. I'm talking about all the guys too, even women too, for that matter. But they did everything they could, and they still felt like they wouldn't have purpose, and they could feel themselves withering. And usually, what got them back into entrepreneurship, they said, "F this, I'm not doing this retirement shit." Is a friend died ahead of them. There was a life event that said, "Oh my God, he retired and he died on the golf course." Like that, and I've had a few friends pass, and people like. And I'd love to hear your take on, when the neurons stop firing to what you felt was your sense of purpose, what that actually does and how that ties into how you're seeing, Olderhood.
Yeah. And well, to answer that, first of all, I want to validate that has become a chronic condition in modern society, especially in the Western world, because things have changed. This isn't, retirement really started in the 50s. And so there's this kind of automatic notion that, I'm going to work my butt off and then I'll retire and it'll be nirvana and I can do anything I want to. And we're a different society than we were back then. Plus, we're living longer. Plus, if you take moderately good care of yourself, it's not just about living longer if you're sick, but it's being healthier longer. And what has become a chronic problem throughout the world is that people just automatically think that you've strategized and worked hard your whole life and planned, and then you're like, I'll just retire. And then they retire, like you say, for a year or two, it's great. But then all of a sudden you're in misery. And there's a reason why.
Wait, Missouri or misery? Sorry, I had to do it.
I'm not going to.
I'm from Missouri. I hear the word misery. I'm like, you don't move to Missouri in your retirement unless you really want to downsize and
that's
save
why
a few dollars.
We might have some people in Missouri.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but sometimes I got to throw humor in where it really hits home. And that for me is continue, please. I'll be quiet. Thank you.
But there's a reason why the telltale is alcoholism, drug abuse, divorce, depression, even suicide. And think about it. What happens? People and surveys and studies have been done. They've lost a reason to get out of bed in the morning. They've lost their purpose. They've lost a sense of relevance. They're not doing anything that's fulfilling anymore. They've lost relationships. And the biggest thing is they've lost their self-identity. And they have nothing to replace it with. Because if you are fortunate enough to live healthy and active for another 40 years, if you're 50, that's almost half your life. What are you going to do with that? How many times can you, as we were talking about before this, how many times can you play golf? How many trips can you take? How much of your bucket list are you going to fill before you get tired of your bucket list?
I mean, if you have well, here's an example. So I just got back from my 30-year high school reunion. So I'm 48, right? And I'm here and I'm looking at it and I'm like, literally, by statistics, everybody in the room that was still alive, not everyone made it, right? But the people who are still at 48 there likely have another 30 solid, awesome years is equally good as the last 30, just from a health standpoint, whatever. 78, like you should be cognitively awesome. You should still be fit enough to do shit, like whatever you need to do. And for the most part, on average, some will go longer, some will go shorter. But you look at it and go, okay, I just graduated high school today again, basically. What in the next 30 am I going to accomplish, given that I've just got a 30-year training behind me? And I'm like, and then you're talking like, well, shit, you get to 78, you still might have another 30. And I'm thinking that in terms of, oh my gosh, these are lifetimes. Like you just talk 50 and you have another 40. That means at age 10 to now, what did you learn? So you're age 10 again. What are you going to go do with the next 40 years of your life? And that perspective should blow your mind. It should blow your mind that you could think of it as I just graduated high school today. That means anything I could do could be net new. And I could start over. I could start on top. And that just blows my mind. It almost creates stress. Like, oh my gosh, I could I could wipe the slate clean and do effectively everything. I don't know. How do you, so you don't have these reflections until you see things around you. And by the way, I look pretty damn good for my age. Relative, some of my guy friends, they still, I'm killing it. There's,
Better
I'm
than
just gonna
I'm
say,
doing. Yeah,
I don't
because
color
it
my
was
hair
on
yet.
mine and it blew all my hair off. But
Anyway, my point is with that, take that and expand on it a little bit in the terms of olderhood.
yeah, you have hit on so many key points there. So I really congratulate you for that, because, okay, I look back and I say, okay, let's say I've got 30 years left of life. And it's like, 30 years. And then I say, wait a minute, where was I 30 years ago?
Right.
And how much life have I had along with that? That's a lot. That's point one. Point two, when is a better time to figure out what is exactly right for you to be doing with your life? Not living the default life, not doing what you think that you should have done because that's what society or your parents told you to, or something that it was great, but the shelf life has expired on it and it's time to move on to something else. When is a better time than when you're older and you know more about yourself and you know more about life and you know more about the world in order to make that decision? And I'll give you this one too. A few months ago, I had a birthday, not big on birthday celebrations, but I did think, I've had a hell of a lot of birthdays. And I thought, wow, think about how old I mean, 10 years ago, I was older. I never use the word old because that has connotations. When I say old guy, what do you think? Old guy. If I say older,
somebody older than me, I don't know. It's not me.
It's ambiguous. But I thought 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I was older. But then I also thought, wait a minute, I am healthier. I am happier. I am more excited about what I'm doing and the prospects for my future than I was 10 years ago or 20 years ago, because I took the time to step back, change the way I looked at things, so the things that I would look at change, and really figure out, what do I want to do? What is right for me holistically? Not just professionally, not just a way to earn an income, but in terms of family, lifestyle, health, community, everything. And so the bottom line of everything we're talking about here is it's looking at this phase of life entirely differently than we've ever looked at it before, because we can do it. We can get away with it.
I watch a bunch on entrepreneurship, and one of the things I love about being an entrepreneur, or maybe you've retired, or you're retired from corporate world, and you're like, now's what. One of the concepts that blew my mind, and this gives me a lot of. I literally watched this last night, so it's like top of mind, but it kind of helped me think through something. And I know I'm teasing it a bit, but it's, if you learn how to iterate and pivot, as long as you never stop, you never fail. Now, you can't overdo it and you can't underdo it. But the idea is, let's say you're just trying to build your own business and you're trying to do this through life and you're worried about income or about these things. As long as you take this a process of, do I need to shift this service or this product or whatever I'm doing slightly to go attract a new audience or new market, and you never stop doing that to find that new market, you'll never fail. You'll always find it, have success, and adjust to where the thing shifts. And that being said, is you also then are in control of your next 30 years, potentially, of your income. Now, if you have tons of debt and you have some other stuff, do what you got to do to clear it out or pay it off, bankrupt it. If it's a student loan, good luck. But not that they should be forgiven. I'm not saying that, people. I'm just saying that maybe you shouldn't have taken it in the first place, because I went through that and that just causes marriage problems. But we'll go down that tangent later. We paid it off. Anyway, the point being is,
I'll interview you about that. Okay.
I went to law school, got to pay back the JD without the JD. Let's just leave it at that. Let's just, and anyway, kids go to school for free. Yes, public service announcement. But the idea is that you're, you in the phase of life you're at, if you're thinking about starting a business, and we're keeping this to entrepreneurship, right? If specifically, I wouldn't worry about the income. It is stressful at times. You'll have to manage the pivots when you're not quite aligned to market for whatever you're doing, or you're trying to add some new service. But just, if you could prepare a little for that, and you're thoughtful and you follow a process to do that, you're going to make money. You're going to be okay. And and that little pivots are what's going to keep your brain interested and fired up to go figure it out. And so I'm top of mind on that, because I think one of the things that I know I'll be scared of is, how am I going to make money? Is someone going to buy something from me? It's, am I going to be, I already don't want to be on camera now, let alone 10 years or 20. So my question to you is, how do you help someone navigate that fear? And then the idea even in entrepreneurism, ageism, where the fear that someone won't buy from you because you're older.
Well, you've got several key points there, that I'll address. I mean, in the first place, and this relates to your last question, how do you navigate that? You hit on a really important point, and that is that the more set you are, this is what I'm going to do, this is what it's going to look like, this is how it's going to happen, this is how I'm going to make my money. I'm not putting one penny into your business because you're going to fail. You have to be wide open. When I started this as a side hustle while I still had corporate clients and such, as a content creator, creating marketing stuff and producing it as well, and directing and so on and so forth. And so I started it as a side hustle, and I started it ready, fire, aim. In the first place, I bought into the fact that you really learned by doing it. That's not to say I didn't do a ton of homework and learning and such, but it's like, let's put it out there and see what works, see what doesn't work. Is there an audience? Where's the audience? It started out as gag pro boomer, because I saw what was in trying to change my life. I saw what was going on with people in Olderhood and the suffering we talked about. But I also saw a lot of people, mainly because they couldn't afford it, who are reimagining themselves, reimagining their lives, becoming entrepreneurs. Kaufman Index saying that boomers were starting up at double the rate as millennials were, and higher rates of success. And these people were saying, this problem that I had where I couldn't afford to retire, and most people in the United States cannot, you can't afford those extra years. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. So that was one thing. So I did it ready, fire, aim, and sure enough, it became New Way Forward. Because also too, my audience isn't just 50 and above. I've got people who follow me and take heed with what I'm offering, who are in their 30s and 40s, because they're either looking forward to a few years down the road, not necessarily 30 years down the road, or, COVID accelerated it. People saying, wait a minute, what am I doing with my life? There's got to be something better for me. 90% of what I talk about is just the ways to transform your life to something that's right for you. So that's one thing. The other thing, and this is huge, I think, they say that 90% of the businesses fail because of the lack of funding. And there's a lot of truth to that. I think the number one problem is expectations. Poor expectations. I'm going to open my doors and everybody's going to walk in. And again, it's going to work like this. It's going to be like that. And the fact of the matter is that after listening to untold numbers of entrepreneurs who have succeeded, and reading about them and even talking to them, that that it's going to be harder than you think it is. Some things that you think are easy are going to be hard. Some things you think are going to be hard are going to be easy. You're going to go through the dip where you lose your enthusiasm, you get tired, you get frustrated, and things like that. Every single successful entrepreneur in the world has gone through all of this stuff. You're going to constantly be thinking, I'm screwing this up, I'm failing, I'm an unmitigated disaster. And I just go, there it is. Steve Jobs went through that. Jeff Bezos went through that. Everybody goes through that. So it's expectations. It's going to be hard. But if you're focused on, why am I doing this? What are all my whys? What are my motivations? Then that will steel you and enable you to get through those hard times. And, as Thomas Edison famously said, most people quit when they're on the verge of success.
Yeah, well, agreed. And you're the troughs and things that you go through, like that goes back to just like, if you don't give up and you fight through that, if you do, it's up and then it's a little higher and then it's a little higher, but it's the relativity of the fall, right? Like, if your bottom line down here was working for somebody in a company and you started and you got above it and you got near it again, but then you got a little higher, just look down where you might go and you're like, oh God, that's usually, to me, that's enough motivation typically to go, yeah, I'm good.
And you come out stronger and more confident as a result.
You do. Yeah. Now, I told my wife the other day, it's not that I wouldn't be like a marketing officer of a startup, but the idea is I wouldn't do it full time because it wouldn't need my full time attention. It would need pockets of thinking and then execution. And that doesn't mean I wouldn't work for something. And I don't want to bash people who work for people and do this, but the idea is that you find a path along the way with some of this. I'm thinking like as you look at olderhood, when does that start from like maybe an age or an experience base?
How many people are there in the world? There are 8 billion variations of that. I mean, I know that I've got people in their 30s that I'd say from a maturity and awareness standpoint, it's olderhood, but it could certainly mean people approaching retirement age. The general characterization that I use for olderhood. So let me break it down into 2 points. I got it now. Number one is that there is this thought that, oh, because you're in your late 50s or your 60s, you're done. You're supposed to be retiring. You're supposed to start declining and stuff like that. And it's like, that's BS. Olderhood means that if you've got purpose, if you've got things that are making you relevant and fulfilled, that's actually a health factor. And it's a motivating factor because you want to be healthy enough to do it and enjoy it. And it's also this opportunity. But then there's also people reach a situation, I mean, in their 30s where it's like, wait a minute, I need something more from life. I need something more that's more suited for me. And they can do it. And by the way, at age 40 or 50, you may have 2 or 3 or 4 pivots and transformations even ahead of you, because that's the way society is now too. So it's different for everybody. And by the way, I just want to briefly say, for some people, traditional retirement is right. And by the way, we probably knew them in college and could identify it. And that's great. Everybody's different. But I at least caution people to, listen and read my stuff and things of that sort to challenge that assumption. And even if you go into it and then fall into from the retirement honeymoon to the retirement nightmare, you're more prepared to make a pivot.
There are people who like, and I don't know the personality type, but I'll describe it, right? So and this being an entrepreneurial podcast, most entrepreneurs do not have the mindset for retirement. I think you can judge it in the following way. If you like looking at the beach, but can't stand sitting on it all day,
yeah.
That's an indicator that you might not be a good retiree. The other is if you get antsy like by the 6th inning of a baseball game, even though you like baseball, that's another indicator. Like, I kind of want to go someplace else now. So if you generally have that kind of energetic entrepreneurial ADD and curiosity that you'd rather go turn up a bunch of rocks on a mile-long hike instead of sit there, like, you know what I mean? Like, you got to just understand your personality, and I think accept that. Now, where the rubs come, you said divorce and alcoholism, is if you're in a relationship, let's say, that is opposite. They wanted that, and you've gone along for the ride, and now you're there, and you're like, I don't want that. I want to work. I want to actually, because it's not work to you. You called it that, but maybe it was actually, I've given up on the idea personally that you can strip your identity from what you're doing in life, because it is part of it. I think it's silly. To me, I think it's silly to think that you can't be somewhat wrapped up in your identity. Like, and that goes sometimes in corporate titles and money making, all those things. But it is part of who you are to some degree. It's something you've earned. It's something you've accomplished. And when it's taken away, or you've shifted, or you've been asked to retire before you hire, these all factor into this olderhood to me. And I think what you're describing, and I just getting to kind of like what you do for people, there's a lot of shit there I just said, but that's a lot of shit of what people come into olderhood with. And where do you fit in with that journey?
Well, if I've got you right, the thing that comes to mind is that, all right, I'm a 3rd generation journalist and storyteller. So my grandfather was in newspapers. My father was a radio news director and stuff. I was in a newsroom when I was 2 weeks old, and I used to hang out at the radio station and hearing great stories from them, learning a lot through osmosis. And so I went into television news because I'm a born storyteller. And I love doing that. And I love sharing stuff with people, information that helps them. When I wanted to leave news back in 1989, because I thought it was going to hell back then, and that was mostly on the sensationalism front, because I made it to a major market in my 3rd move. And I was getting ready to hopefully go network. And then I'm just like, I don't like the direction of this. I need to find something else. Well, I did something, I pivoted to something I could do, but I never stopped to think if I should do it. And so for the last 30 years, some odd years, I was a content creator for major corporations, as I mentioned, marketing and things of that sort. I'm very grateful for it. It put two boys through college, kept the lights on, got to do cool stuff, but it was never right for me. And so when I was reconsidering what's my new way forward, I wasn't calling it back then, I'm like, this is it. It's just, that's what I need in me. You know, that's why I can't sit on the beach for 6 hours. I need to do that. I need to fulfill that purpose, but in a more meaningful way than helping sell cars or some corporate Six Sigma initiative or something of that sort. And I think that's in all of us, that it may not be in the context of what you have been doing, but when you break down and see what is it that I, Paul Long, you, Joe Schmo, or Mary Smith really need to do to have that fulfillment and purpose, but in the context and in the way that's right for me and fits these other parts of our lives. Because one last thing to your point, Arthur Brooks' book, Strength to Strength, you know, he talks about successaholics and how this phase of life, you're successful, you're striving, you're leading, you're doing stuff, and then nothing. And those are the people who really crash hard. But you can reimagine those parts of you that are fulfilling and that you're capable of doing in new ways that fit your whole life.
And so people know, though, like, so just kind of like, do they work with you one-on-one? Is it just more like, how do they interact with you in this? Just content? Or tell me about that.
Well, I'm out of the ready, fire, aim stage, although that will be perpetual. That will be perpetual because it's a moving, like Wayne Gretzky said, I was successful because I didn't go to where the puck was. I was going to where it was going. And I'm in, after doing it as a side hustle and recently having cut ties with my other business and my corporate clients, I'm relaunching. So right now, it's information out on Substack and YouTube and LinkedIn and my website and things of that sort. I'm building a course because I've had a couple of calls from it from a couple of enterprises that want to distribute it to their people, so to speak. So eventually, and so therefore that, you know, the books and the work, one-on-one coaching, I'm going to coach a few people from time to time, mostly to learn, but just one or two. So mostly, as some people say, we need a Pied Piper. We need somebody out there getting the word out. And because of my background and everything, that's my main focus.
You're gonna be the gospel. You're gonna be the good news.
Well, let's not go too high, but yeah.
Hey, I mean, come on. We'll see where I'll see if you'd buy into it.
I'm going to tread lightly on that one.
You know, you throw a turd on the table occasionally just to see if anyone cleans it up. That's it. In our interview, we've covered a lot of stuff, and I love the idea of it. It actually makes me just, you know, there's a lot of people who listen to their mid 40s and early 50s, and they're on the cusp. Conversations like these make me feel better about getting older. And the reason I say that is because my mindset is one of looking at how my parents are, you know, in their 70s and they don't move as well. And they, you know, not that they were unhealthy, but they're just not doing as well as they could be, I think. And I look at it like they're an old 70, and I see other 7-year-olds that are, you know, rocking 12,000 steps a day out in the neighborhood. And I'm like, I want to kind of be more like that. And so I think conversations like this would give me hope that I don't have to have the mindset of what I was taught as a kid of what being older is. And nor do I want it. I don't need to have a big house when I retire. I want to have freedom to do what it is I want to do. And that's way more important. I want to be able to have a good mindset, good health. You know, the man with his health has 1,000 dreams. The man without has only but one. From a guy who just threw his back out playing racquetball on Saturday, I assure you that's true.
Oh, and I'm a racquetball player too. And I messed up my knee.
Hi.
And I still bounce off the walls to get that extra nanosecond to cross the court.
Right. And so I overdid it. Last 2 days, I'm like, I wish my back didn't hurt. And that's all I've thought about. Like, honey, I can't help you do your rage cleaning this weekend. So I'm just going to watch the Olympics on the I should just fake a back injury every Saturday morning is what I'm hearing. 'Cause
Yeah,
I really had a good time watching the
I
Olympics.
want to see a doctor's excuse from you for that.
Yeah, no. So anyway, there's a lot we covered, but if there was one thing I should have asked you and I didn't, what was that question?
What was that question? Let's
There was
see.
a question I should have asked you. But I
I
didn't.
told you essentially what it is. Well, maybe something on the process that I went through, because that's what everybody's interested in. Because because everybody's like, "Oh, Paul, tell me how you did it," and I'm like, "I'm not going to tell you how I did it. I'm going to tell you how I would do it now that I know what I did." Because
For
none of this,
1995, though, I will tell you.
what's that?
For 1995, I will tell
Oh,
you how I did
yes.
it.
And if you order right now, I'll send you some Ginsu knives.
That's right. It was 1995 with a comma between the 1 and the 9, not a dot between the 2 9s, just to be clear.
Thank you. I should hire you as my business manager.
Sure.
Yeah, I
How would
mean,
you answer that, though? How would you answer that? How would you do it now?
how would I do it now? Well, in the first place, I hinted at it before, where I changed the way I look at things so the things I look at change. And that's a quote from a Nobel Prize winning physicist back in the early 20th century that came up with quantum theory and helped Einstein. And it really is, it's like, yeah, you can do your list of I like this, I don't like this, I'm good at this, I'm bad at that. And that's good. But that's all people do. And again, I made it a choice that I wish I could go back and change, because I did something I could with that content business rather than what I should do for me. And so I really stepped back and I did my homework. That's where I found out about the pratfalls of traditional retirement and how people were reimagining themselves. And then I see, oh my gosh, if I take moderately good care of myself, I could live healthy, active, relevant, even profitable into my 90s. And that also too, people who have that purpose, that's a health factor. And oh, by the way, there's the U shape of happiness that shows that when people get older, they actually get happier, and especially when they're relevant and stuff like. And I'm like, okay, but what is it? And one of the very first things I did, here's something anybody watching this can do right away. And it's really simple. Think about how you want to feel in your future when you've found your new way forward. How do you want to feel every morning when you wake up about yourself and your life? And get it as fundamental and basic. Don't be the specifics, not the what, but what is the basic thing? And so, for instance, mine was A, I woke up. That's pretty fundamental. B, I love what I'm doing. I feel relevant. I feel purposeful, and I'm enjoying doing it. And because of the way I am, I'm challenged and stuff. I'm looking forward to what I'm doing today. I'm healthy. I'm not on any medications. I don't have a serious chronic health problem. So I've been taking care of myself. And I don't have to worry about money at all. I don't have to put any energy into that. That was my filter. That was the basic thing. And then it took work. It took effort to figure out, how does that manifest itself? And like the power of intention happens because I'm focused on it. My brain's rewiring to come up with ideas and notice and see things. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, what I'm doing is something I should share with everybody. So in a way, mine was easy, but it wasn't easy coming to it. I had to put in the effort of it. And then last but not least, baby steps. You don't have to figure it out tomorrow. It's like I vastly improved my health. I was very unhealthy when this started. And I just one day, every day, what's one little thing I could do? What's one little thing? Oh my gosh, now I'm doing 5 things. Oh my gosh, now I'm looking into it. Now I'm really healthy. So that's the advice that I give for getting started. And of course, shameless plug, go to newwayfwd.com and you'll find out more. Follow me on Substack or LinkedIn or YouTube. Because I spent the last 15 years doing my 10,000 hours of learning and reading and connecting with experts and real people who are going through this stuff and trying and failing and modifying all of that other kind of stuff in order to get to the point where I am now. And it's
awesome. And I love that you're doing another relaunch. You're late 30s and you're about to go do your next relaunch in life. Remember, wherever you are, you got 30 ahead of you. You got to assume it, right?
Yeah.
And when you get relaunched, you're coming back on here and say, this is where I'm growing up to this. I'm doing this next. And so that's actually probably a better question. When you grow up, what do you want to become?
Well, in the first place, I'm open enough to say I may not know that answer yet, because I'm that open for where opportunities and realizations and needs take me. But I really do, if I had to characterize it in the first place, those fundamental intentions of how I want to feel every morning, I'm 100% there. And number two, I would say that, yeah, I'm making the impact, that the discussion, the ageist assumptions and views and stereotypes and presumptions of age are changing, because what I'm doing now and what so many people in my sector are doing now, we're outliers, we're early adopters, but this is going to be the new reality for everyone. It's what they're going to expect. It's going to be 180 degrees from what people think this phase of life is now. And I'm not saying in 10 or 20 years, I'm saying 5 years. 5 years, this is going to be the new norm. And by the way, for all the budding entrepreneurs out there, this is a financial sector of which there are incredible opportunities that only a few people are starting to touch. And so when you start regarding people over, let's say, 50 or 60, and you start looking at them as full-blown adults instead of old people, and their needs and how they want to be marketed to, and the lifestyles that they're living, there are incredible opportunities there. I mean, just in housing, and for when people do get older. I mean, just this week, I've had 2 conversations with forward-thinking developers of how they're completely reimagining homes and spaces that are adaptable and changeable as people get older, and not just handrails and stuff, but even AI-generated humidity levels, everything. All of these opportunities that are out there that right now, nobody's touching.
Yeah. I mean, if you could live, if the average age goes up to, let's say, 100 from whatever, the 74 or 75, so 25 more years, the idea that you need to cram all this shit in your 20s to go to college and go do this and go do that goes out the window. It really does. Because if your earning years are best served by maturity at age 30 and above, like you need to hit the workforce by 30, you can really, like, it changes the whole idea of like, use creativity and youth and other things when you're younger to do other things before you do families and it should change the model. You don't need to learn when you're driving, you're 18 anymore. Like, that's dangerous enough, or 16. Let's just start that. All right. Conscious of time. I love this conversation. You and I could go on forever. If we drank, it would be forever for real. Like,
we both quit drinking. But but we don't need, look at us now. We don't need that. We're both so jazzed.
Right. I'm in better shape because of it. So that. And listen, nothing wrong against drinking, people. Do it. For me, I felt like it was just taking off enough edge to give me an edge. And so anyway, that's the thing though, right? With drinking, any drug really. Hey, listen, I just want to take off the edge on a Friday. As soon as you take off that edge, you lose an edge.
Oh, absolutely. And even what you were talking about 2 minutes ago, what did Carl Jung say? What was truth in the morning is a lie in the afternoon. I mean, if you're 20 years old, you've already seen how you outgrow things and move on to other things, and that continues.
Yeah, don't get a tattoo when you're 18. It won't make sense at 25, and it certainly won't make sense at 35. Now, unless it was like a parent pass, you lost a child. Okay, take their ashes. You might want to embed that one in a little bit. I'm fine with that. But if you're going to go tattoo, have it make purpose. Go the full banana. Get the full arm done, the face, look like Tyson by 8. Go for it. You don't have to.
That's the big thing about tats. What you love now, 20 years from now, you're going to be going, oh my God, what did I do?
I know. Actually, though, I will say I am pro tat. I don't have any. I'm okay if people have them.
And I'm not.
You don't want people to feel like they're going to get murdered. So just keep away from tats, make you feel murdered versus like, hey, that looks like art. Like, there's a difference between the two, right? So, Paul, thank you, Paul Long. Even though I said young, but puns are great. That's what I like, or metaphors, puns, and analogies, and sarcasm.
I'll take it as a compliment.
it is. Well, you are young. You're great. And when I grow up, I want to be like you. So, no, but I'm still going to have the tie. It's all about branding.
Well, I'm going to
Thank
look
you,
forward to having you.
New Way Forward. It's New and Way and FWD.com. Go check him out. And he's got a YouTube channel. I think he just launched not too long ago. New Way Forward. Just really cool content, by the way. I've seen a few of the videos on there. Not there's any benefit to being an early subscriber to someone's channel, but I will tell you, like, it's only going to improve as if you start putting out there on YouTube what you're doing as you navigate the exact thing you're going to talk or teach about. I think that is your YouTube channel right there. Like,
and by the way, by Labor Day, it's going to explode. I've got so much pent up content. I got a great guy that's helping me with the nuances of it. And awesome. Despite my background, I still need that help. And yeah, thank you.
We're just going to get some color behind you, so backlight you a little bit more so you pop out. We're going to get through there. We're going to do this together. It's going to be great. Thank you, Paul. I'm going to put you in the periwinkle room. Thank you once again for coming on. I appreciate it. Paul, thanks. Paul's awesome. Listen, if you can get, like, I know he's just kind of rebranding. If you can convince him to be a one-on-one coach with you in this kind of idea of oldism, or, childhood, not oldism, sorry, olderhood, alcoholism, whatever it is. Just don't become an alcoholism during olderhood. It doesn't mix, and stop smoking, guys. It's dumb. Everyone knows this. All right. Thank you, Paul Long, for coming on today. Check out his stuff, New Way Forward, FWD.com part. And he's really an exciting person to talk with. He's a lot of fun. I wish I had more time with him today. But thank you so much, by the way. If this was your first time here, thanks for making it. And if you've been here before, you rock. Get to our YouTube channel, youtube.com @neverbeenpromoted. If you can, check out neverbeenpromoted.com. You can pre-order the book there that I have coming out that talks about a lot of the stuff that we're on the show here with. I really appreciate you for being here and listening. Until we meet again, get out there and go unleash your entrepreneur.